You're listening to A Creative Excuse presented by Hecho a Mano. I guess this is season 2. Had a little break from December to now. Spent a little time in Mexico. Had some time to kind of step away from the gallery and get a little perspective, and everything is different now. I guess I'm going to have a little more time to step away and get some perspective. We are postponing the opening for Jason Garcia's exhibition, Songs for My Muse. It was originally scheduled for March 27th, and we're tentatively rescheduling for April 17th. We're committed to having Jason show up by March 27th, but it's not clear if we'll be open, what the universe holds in store for us. I'm kind of been taking it day by day, and it's very possible we'll close the gallery starting Wednesday, March 18th. So stay tuned to social media or our email list, and we'll make sure to make an announcement there. Of course, all our artwork is online, so you can continue to view works and support the gallery virtually. We're offering free shipping on all orders over $50, excluding larger, inexpensive ceramics. And we can also offer free local delivery in Santa Fe or curbside pickup. It's going to looking like a tight time for local business and artists. So if you have the means, it means a lot to support artists and these things, which, on the surface seem like they're about making money, but it's really, for me, about community and creativity and doing something in the world that holds meaning. So it's not just giving money to Amazon or something that is clearly just in it for the bucks. Although we do need that toilet paper from Amazon. This episode is Kat Kinnick. Her exhibition, A Culture of Wilderness, is on view at Hecho a Mano through March 22, though it might be virtually on view for a while. You can see all the work on our website, and I'll be posting installation images this week, so you can see the show that way. Kat works in painting, ceramics, and printmaking as well. Yeah, that's all for now. Thanks for tuning in, and I'm hoping to continue posting episodes every other week. Maybe I'll be doing virtual interviews through phone. We'll see how this all shakes out. Anyhow, thanks again for listening. You ready to talk?
Yeah.
Feeling talky?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just got off work, yeah?
Yeah.
You work at New Art?
Mm-hmm.
Work at another gallery?
Mm-hmm.
How is that for you, like, as an artist, like, working with other people's work?
It's cool.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think, things take me a while. So I've been there for, 2 years.
What do you mean?
And I'm finally, kind of getting in a good flow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool to, be at a place for that long and get better at it. And it's like a high market gallery.
Mm-hmm.
But then, interestingly, actually doing the show with you and pricing the way I did,
Mm-hmm.
I realized, oh my God, the prices at New Art actually aren't that expensive. The artists really deserve this. And
Yeah.
so it's really interesting to learn that side of for me as an artist. And
Right. Yeah. I mean, you really get a sense of, I mean, you know what it takes to make a painting, of course,
yeah.
but like to get a sense of like what it takes to run a gallery. I mean, and of course it has to be an equitable partnership, right? You want to be a good gallery, because of course there's those, bad stories out there you hear of, galleries not doing the right thing. And of course they don't deserve their cut. But no, it's cool that you get that perspective, that you can kind of see it on both sides. Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah, it's a really good gallery.
Yeah.
And it's been my favorite since I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool.
Yeah, you were mentioning that you would draw back there sometimes.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
I have a plein air painting that I made behind New Art. Yeah.
When was that?
When I was in high school sometime. I would come up, take the train usually, get off and just, be like, I don't need to look at a map. I'll just walk around Santa Fe, find my way, and totally get lost, I kind of miss those days where I didn't know Santa Fe as well as I do now, because it's kind of magical.
Yeah, I love that, walking around a city that I don't know and just kind of wandering into places and just the surprises. I was just in Mexico City and it was like that, just like, oh, what is this? I don't know where I'm going. Yeah, that's cool. So I guess that's a good segue. You grew up in Albuquerque, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so your parents, are they from Albuquerque?
My mom is from Rybrook, is that right? Yeah, right outside of New York.
Okay.
The suburbs. Mm-hmm. And then, so I have East Coast side, and then my dad is from Indiana, so he's Midwest side. Yeah, and they both pursued creative paths.
Right.
Yeah.
And they did rug restoration.
Yeah, that became their business. Yeah.
That's cool.
They're really cool.
And were they antique pieces or? Yeah,
they mostly antiques, I think. Mm-hmm. They would know better, way better than me, But I was just hanging out with Zara, the artist Zara Marwin, and my mom the other day, and Zara was like, "Your mom is so cool." She is really cool.
Yeah.
Dad really wanted to do photography, and he went into design instead. He became an art director, and then was trading in Indian arts. And then Mom pursued ceramics on the West Coast, and then she was doing quilting and fiber arts in Tucson, and that's where she found a ad for a job restoring Navajo rugs. So that's where she learned how to do it. And then my dad was in Colorado, in Aspen or somewhere, and he went down to get his rugs restored. And that's where he met my mom, and he really liked her. And then they got together and created the business together. And
their first baby.
Yeah, and yep, right before me. Yeah, and then moved to Albuquerque, and I'm super grateful that they moved to Albuquerque.
Yeah,
because it's it's meant a lot to me. And I really love this place.
Yeah, and so you grew up there. You went to high school, all that. Yeah. Oh.
Yep.
And then you went away for a little bit.
Yeah, to Baltimore.
What was in Baltimore?
Lots of cool kids. And
you went to school there?
Yeah, I went to school there. I went to MICA.
What's MICA?
It's the Maryland Institute College of Art.
Okay.
They say it's one of the oldest schools in the country, which is cool. And it was a nice bridge for me out of Albuquerque because it's so similar. And I think it's similar because it's a kind of blue collar big city that's gritty, and it's kind of dangerous, but there's lots of there's issues, major issues in Baltimore,
of course, and
it kind of wore on me being there, especially not the first year, but later on while I was there. I really missed the Southwest, and especially because I'm from here. But yeah.
There's a spaciousness about the desert, right? That you don't get on the East Coast. You know, even in like rural areas, like I don't know, just being able to see for miles and miles and miles, I think does something to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's easy to miss that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love, like, I'm in a Balkan choir.
Right. Okay.
And that's also it's kind of been a new thing for me. I've been in it for 2 years, but it's amazing that we have this in Santa Fe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool to learn about the regions that these songs come from, and then have the style be described in the way that it relates to the landscape, like these people sing in this really dramatic way, just like the mountains that they come from.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really cool to think about the personalities of the people of a place relating to the landscape.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like we all, spend our time in a place, and of course it affects us, right? Of course we have a relationship to it, even if we're not aware of it, because we're interacting with the space, or even just driving around in a space.
Yeah.
Right? That shapes people.
Yeah.
That's cool to think about how like the songs are shaped by that. Can you give an example of like how you see that manifested in a song?
Let's see, it would be really intense if I sang one of the intense songs that I like on here. Yeah.
Well, if you feel up for it later, you're welcome.
Okay.
That would be kind of cool.
We do have a choir concert coming up.
Oh, cool. When's that?
I think it's like May 16th.
Mm-hmm.
It's on my website, and the choir is called Sevda.
Sevda.
EVDA. And it means like love and longing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's one of those beautiful words that, I wish we had in English.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Where's the concert?
At I think it's at San Miguel again.
San Miguel. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And isn't there like a couple Balkan choirs in Santa Fe?
There's Rumelia Collective.
Right, Rumelia. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And our directors in that group.
Okay.
They're really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting that there's like, in such a small town, it's like 2 Balkan choirs.
Yeah. Yeah. And a Hawk and a Hacksaw, those guys?
Yeah,
They're in Albuquerque.
Uh-huh.
I loved them in high school too. And then they've done some work with my boyfriend Jordan, who does New Mexico music in Lone Pinon. Mm-hmm. And that's a cool, thing. Like we're talking about the thing from like high school that resurfaces in my life and just deepens, like deepening connections. I think.
Mm-hmm. And when did you get started with music? When did that come into your life?
Just 2 years ago, I guess.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you didn't sing before that?
No. I made up like spontaneous songs in the car that were in like my own language.
Yeah.
Because it's really expansive for me to envision other cultures and just how it feels like I suck at learning languages and it's just like so time consuming for me, but pretending that I can speak a language is like so fun.
So when you sing in those different languages, you're not necessarily learning the language, you're just memorizing the sounds. Yeah.
And then we'll learn like some words, like it helps in singing the song, knowing what you're talking about, and it's cool for that relationship to deepen, but I pretty much just memorize the words.
So 2 years ago, how did you come into contact with them? What happened?
Like a friend was in it, and she was like, I'm in this group, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And she's like, you should come and check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I want to do that. I want to sing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Because that can be like a really vulnerable experience to like be up on stage and sing. Like singing is vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah, like being here is vulnerable, like being recorded,
Yeah.
I think it's important to do those things and do it over and over and over again, so like you become more comfortable.
Right.
And that's also like what working at the art gallery where I'm at now has helped with, like doing exhibitions every month. Like that's been an intimidating thing for me as an artist, like going to shows. And I felt like having the show with you, like I had some tools in my tool belt because it's felt more natural, you know?
Yeah.
So singing's like that too.
Right. Yeah. The audience is delayed with a podcast.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's a future audience.
Yeah. Woo. You can edit.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd do a live one. I've seen, there's people that do live podcasts. Yeah.
Someday, huh?
That's funny. Well, that's so cool. And then with painting, when did that show up?
Painting, like just me painting?
Well, when did you start making art things?
Like my whole life.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I'm an only child, and so I was like, I tended to be like very observant and introspective. So that I think that personality really tends towards being someone who makes things. Mm-hmm. Like I would pick bouquets and like come up with my own like display. Like also I think I was really inspired by my parents being entrepreneurs. Yeah. I wanted to like model that. And one sweet thing that I did as a kid that I love is I loved stuffed animals. Uh-huh. I love animals.
Most of us did, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
And so I got all my stuffed animals and I put them in the fencing, so their little heads were popping out. And then I got my boombox and I played it was either classical music or some tape that I had that I thought was really cheerful, and I wanted to cheer people up as they passed around, like just walked by the house, because we lived on a corner, so people would walk by a lot. Yeah,
that's so funny.
That was like my first performance art piece.
Yeah, it was like an installation on your yard.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
And so did you start painting fairly young? Did you make paintings?
Oh, so then I painted on let's see, I did. I remember in elementary school there were like competitions, and I had won like a drawing competition, and then it's hard to remember like before that, I know there's a picture, it's not of me painting, but my parents had like this white Navajo rug, and then they gave me yarn and I could like sew into the rug. Wow. Yeah,
that's so neat.
Yeah. And then in middle school, I took some like summer camps and did photography, and I think I did painting then. And then I really picked it up in high school. Yeah. Yeah. And now it's so different, like being in my own place and painting more seriously, and then also not having like professors and, just on like my time.
Right.
Yeah.
In high school, were you painting animals?
Yeah. I was. Mostly it was like drawing assignments, like painting and drawing assignments from class, and I would always incorporate animals. Yeah. And then I had a studio for a bit. That was really fun. It was a factory on 5th Street in Albuquerque, which is still there. It's like by the Harwood. And I was making I painted a wallpaper in my studio, some flowers, and then I did paper mache animal masks. So I think I've always kind of been like multidisciplinary artist and always wanting to like learn different things. Right,
because like for this show you've got ceramics, you've got prints, you've got paintings.
Yeah.
And then so you went to the MICA, Baltimore, Maryland Institute. And did you study painting in college?
No, actually. And I feel like I should have, but I was in the interdisciplinary sculpture department, and that was like GFA basically. Like you could I picked I picked that because I could take different classes that would apply towards that degree,
Yeah.
If you're painting, it would have to be mostly painting classes, but I was so curious that I picked that. And instead, like, GFA is basically the same thing, but it was like the really cool, edgy kids were in the interdisciplinary sculpture department. So I was with them, and I wasn't as cool and edgy, but like, I wanted to be like, what's this all about, And then I was like this sweet, people were like, oh, Kat, the sweet one painting the like big flower murals. It was cool.
Did you find that, like, I mean, when I was going to school, I mean, I felt like a lot of the students were making like overly serious work. And was your work just as playful at that point? And did you find did you find other kids like criticizing the fact that it was playful, or like had a sense of innocence about it?
Yeah, maybe more so the teachers.
The teachers, really?
Yeah, but they were also really supportive too. Yeah. And then one teacher even got me like a big roll of paper to draw on, because he was like, you need to be working way bigger than what you're doing. But I feel like that what you're describing, that I kind of like rebelled against that by using like glitter and bright colors, and I think it was like maybe recompensating too for like, I'm seeing a lack of this, so I want more of this, and gonna incorporate it in what I do.
Right. Yeah, I think there's this sort of, I don't know if it's some kind of subconscious sentiment or something that, especially I think with college students, like that like somehow if it's not like dark and brooding, somehow it's not real or honest, And I think that translates outside of school too, but like that somehow honesty equals darkness, right?
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, I think a lot of us tend to hide from our own darkness. So yeah, I mean, certainly, there's honesty involved in uncovering that stuff, but like honesty is like, I don't know, it's like a blank template, right? It can be anything. You can be honest about anything. Why does it have to be dark?
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. Totally.
Because like, I mean, I feel like your work, I mean, if it's not anything else, it's honest, and I feel like it really exemplifies you. And I think that you're able to translate really well, like your relationships onto paper. And do you want to talk a little bit about like what that is for you, and just the nature and Kat Kinnick relationship?
That's cool. That's gonna take me time to process. That's such a compliment. It's like the biggest compliment to me.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how do I talk about that? I guess nature is really honest to me, and maybe in some ways I have pursued honesty through my, curiosity towards nature, and then also like when I was a preschool teacher for a couple of years, I kind of pursued that because of like the innocence and honesty that kids have, and in a way, even my work, like I've thought, like one of the criticisms that I've had towards my own work lately has been like, would adults like buy these paintings, or do they just belong in like children's bedrooms, or should I be illustrating children's books? Is this for like a different type of person, like a child? But there's, I think, like folded into that is like a really big compliment to what I'm doing, because I really relate to like really relate to children's books and even like children's clothes because it has those qualities that are so sweet. And I don't think that adults have to be, like you're saying, like dark and brooding or like serious. I think it is totally valid to and beautiful and rich to explore these other, personalities too.
Yeah. Well, and I think those kinds of questions you're talking about, they kind of, what's also folded in that, I like the way you said that, is that the part of us that's still a child isn't there anymore. Right?
Yeah.
That somehow we can't relate to something that is childlike, And I think that that's a huge disservice to us as humans, right? Like, personally, I find that the older I get, the more I want to tap in to that spirit, to that sincerity, most of all, that honesty and sincerity. It's not, I almost feel like innocence is the wrong way to describe it, because to me it's like innocence is like, oh, you haven't been hurt by the world yet, and I think that really what we're talking about there is vulnerability, is honesty, is sincerity, and a lot of times we shut that down because we do get hurt by the world, right? And so anyway, I think that one of the things that you're doing here, I mean, you're talking about that, but you're anthropomorphizing a little bit, right? Like, it's not just wildlife. It's kind of about your relationship, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
think it is.
Yeah. Like, I feel like, the animals are like, they're like looking, almost all of them are like looking out at you, right? It's like, hey, hi, hello.
Yeah.
So, what is your relationship with animals like?
Like, I wish I saw more of them.
What do you mean? Like, you saw more animals, or the more of their being? Or?
Yeah. Like, I sat down to paint last night, and I was thinking, like, I wanted to paint something from my own life. Like I've done with some of these things, like going to Bosque del Apache and seeing a really cute skunk, and like there's so much wildlife there, and then I'd come back and illustrate it. And then illustrating like a real experience was so much more rich than just a picture of something or a fantasy. Yeah, I guess I just love them so much and wish we had more of them. And so I guess it's like I just cherish them, and like that's what's coming across.
Yeah.
And then I see like a crazy scene that maybe brings me like down to earth, like that I told you about the antelope head that I found, that a coyote had killed an antelope and left its head by our house, and it was like so grotesque, and I was like, wow, like animals are real hardcore too.
Right.
Yeah. But like folded into that is like a rich experience that also is like I hold really dear. I feel like we can learn a lot from animals. I'm just really drawn towards them. Yeah.
You talk in like some of the written things that you've done about your work, you talk about how just about like caring for animals can help us, I think, understand or care for the planet better. Is that kind of part of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Seeing that connection.
Yeah, like this idea that I've had lately about like we're like people of we're like cultural consumers and creators, and culture really creates like the values that we have, like where you eat, what you wear, what music you listen to, and then seeing like traditional indigenous cultures, like I love Mimbres pottery,
Mm-hmm.
and they incorporate all these animals,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think about like what does that say about them,
Mm-hmm.
and what kind of relationship they had as a group to, they had a relationship to animals and like reverence for them,
Mm-hmm.
and they were connected. And what does our like culture
Mm-hmm.
say about us?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like technology oriented, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really interesting thing to kind of critique and look into, and I'm trying to like actively like kind of reestablish these like traditional values, I think,
Mm-hmm.
in my work.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love like even the clothes from like wherever, like Tibet or Eastern Europe, they have like deer and flowers, and
Mm-hmm.
like the Mexican tops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love them.
It's not a Nike logo.
No.
But yeah, I mean that's a really interesting point. I mean, it's like the things that we consume and the things that we adorn ourselves with do express those values, and of course, America isn't some kind of monolith, but there is like a dominant sort of sense of like business and consume and money and status being really, really important, and of course we need to be able to live and pay our bills, but it's like it's a distortion and perversion, right?
Yeah.
Of like taking something that to me it's like it's ego worship. It's like something that's like not, it's totally separate from what I think about is like our real or authentic self. It's like some other story of ourself that we end up kind of idolizing. Yeah, and I guess that kind of takes it back to animals too, because it's like, and that sincerity, like they're not telling any fabrication, they're just being themselves, right? And I think that's really alluring, right?
Yeah.
That's why I love watching my cats at home.
Yeah.
They just act themselves. They don't act in any way. I mean, they're not acting.
Yeah, it's so refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like to make it in this world, you have to act.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, and even working in an art gallery,
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we're coming across like so many different kinds of people.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody kind of has their own sort of way of relating and talking, and, a lot of people from a bunch of different places. And, how do you relate, right? How do you interact with people and create connection, through all of that, I think for me, it takes a lot of listening.
Yeah. Ditto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like really hearing, okay, where are you coming from? What are you saying? What's important to you here? What's going on?
Yeah.
And not just acting out my ego.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like today, it was kind of fun. People would say hi in different volumes,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just match their volume.
Yeah, just mirror.
Yeah, like, oh, you're this kind of person I can be loud with.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're really gentle, and yeah.
Totally. I think that's a great way to get people to interact with you, right? It's like, oh, that feels familiar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. So this show, A Culture of Wilderness, the title I mean, it kind of comes back to what we're talking about too. It's like how to create. I mean, you're us as individuals are creating culture, right? Like if you're making things and putting them out in the world, or even if you're just consuming, right? You're participating in culture, right? And you're creating it in that way. I mean, what do you hope? What kind of impact do you hope this has for people?
Well, I feel like part, like the first thing, like at least if anything, I could ask for like a feeling of solidarity that people can have, because I know that means a lot to me. To see like even what you're doing, with your work, like it makes a difference to put yourself out there, because people who are like you can, connect and see that like they're not alone. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
So that's like, what can I ask from just doing one show, because I think I've been trying to be more gentle on myself and be like, oh, this is part of a big process, It's like I want to be doing more things like this, and just make more, and with each show just like make connections. And it's amazing that friends are asking for work, and that I'm selling. Like, one of my goals is to be more financially sustainable as an artist, and that's really taking me time. And it's a good question.
Sounds like you want to create connections.
Yeah.
You want people to connect through the work to the ideas of wilderness, and including that in the conversation of what is culture, what is important to us. Like, how do we make that something that's more important? I was listening to a podcast the other day about they were talking about the way that whales became more important in the kind of collective consciousness. There was this guy in the 60s, and he heard about a whale that had beached itself on a nearby beach, and he came down and to check it out at night after everybody had gone, and like the thing was like somebody had cut off its tail. So, I mean, it was just like brutal the way that people had treated this thing. And right then and there, he was like, I'm dedicating my life to studying whales. And then he's, I guess, somehow found out, he was talking to like a Navy guy, and this Navy guy was like, listen to this. And he had this recording. He was like, those are whales. And so, and he heard the whale songs, and he's like, this is how we're going to change people's consciousness about whales, that how they're important. And so I remember, in the 80s, how like there was like this thing about whale song, like that was like really prevalent. Like everybody knew what whales sounded like, but he made it his goal to kind of get it out there. And it really made an impact in terms of like the whaling commissions, creating like moratoriums on whaling and things like that, and really creating consciousness. But it was about creating the connection, right? Seeing oneself in the animal. And so these songs, like they're very, I don't know, haunting and beautiful, and like there's a lot of emotion in them, But then they were talking about, how do we get people to just see that animals are just like their cousins, their brothers and sisters, right? Like, and so there was this is kind of a long story, but there's this, just listen to the podcast. It's it's Invisibilia. It's the latest episode of Invisibilia. But anyway, I'll summarize. so in looking at language, AI has been able to analyze language in a way that kind of creates these 3D visualizations of like word clouds almost, where like, different words are different distances apart from one another and different spaces in the cloud. And if they're more related, they're closer, et cetera, et cetera. And so it creates this shape, right? And what they found was that across all languages, they create a similar kind of shape. So basically, it's like a visualization of how we create meaning through words. So that across cultures, like these words and the meanings and the ways that we create meaning are very, very similar, right? So they were like, well, what if we could, do this with whale song? What if we could do this with like the sounds that monkeys make, right? And create that visualization and kind of set it up against the ways that we create meaning with human language and almost have a way to translate what animals are saying. So that was like totally trippy to hear about. And like, how do we see ourselves in nature?
Did it line up?
Well, they're
working on it now?
Yeah.
I bet that's a process.
Yeah, right.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, because they were, there's like real patterns in the sounds that animals make,
Yeah.
So
I'd love to learn more about that.
Yeah, listen to that. It's a great episode. Totally.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's that question, like, how do we, if we're going to not destroy the planet and in turn ourselves, like, how do we see ourselves in that? It's such a big scale. It's hard to relate to. I think for most people, it's like you look at, you tell somebody like we have, 10 years before, we're kind of beyond the point of no return. They're like, oh yeah, 10 years, that's, big deal, but it's like, no, that's right around like, look at the scale of like 4 billion years or however old the planet is. Like, that's not very long. How do you create relationships that way?
Yeah. And that's definitely part of my work too, because that's so real that climate change and the devastation that we're going to face. And then it's amazing to hear and Chernobyl, like the wolves and nature taking over. It's almost like hope is a part of my work, where like because I because it is devastating and really traumatic for me that so many animals are endangered and going extinct, like languages, but like animals have amazing resilience too, and nature does, and so that's really beautiful. And I think things will turn out okay, but there's we're in for a big storm for sure, and lots of storms to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's, in thinking about the connection, like almost all the animals in your work are looking out at you, right? And it's such a simple gesture, but it's like, look at me, right? And I think that in that sense, like, you're asking for connection, right? Not just with you and your feelings about the animals in the work, but with nature itself, right? You're saying connect with me, look at me, right? And I think in some small way that has an impact, and that takes it back to the childlike nature of it too. Like, it's such a sincere and honest feeling. We all want to be seen, right? We all want to be seen, and I think your paintings do that.
Aww.
Yeah. So that's your way of helping people connect to the planet.
Oh, I hope.
No, it's true. It does. I mean, I've been watching people walk in here for the past 2 weeks.
Oh,
totally.
Yeah.
That's and really connecting with the work. So,
Yay.
yeah, your work works.
Yay.
Yeah. This is the first podcast I've done in a while.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Has it been a while?
Since December.
Ooh.
I took a break.
How was your trip?
It was good. It was very full. I went to Mexico City and Oaxaca. And I didn't program enough downtime into my trip. It was just all like, oh, we're going to see this, going to go see this, going to go see this, you know.
How long was your trip?
A couple weeks. And somebody was saying, like, you know, if you're going to take a vacation, don't go to Mexico. Like, those are work trips, you know. So that's probably very true, you know, because, like, I guess, yeah. So it was great, very full. It gave me a lot of perspective, I think, and just like stepping back from, because we're almost at a year. The 21st of March is 1 year.
That's awesome. Are you going to do anything to celebrate?
So we'll have an opening, and I think that'll be, so I have this little green box back there underneath all those shelves.
Uh-huh.
And so on the opening night, we had everybody write like well wishes and things in the box and close it up, and we said we'd open it in a year. So I'm going to open that. So it'll be an opening for Jason Garcia, but then we'll also, like, you know, celebrate. So not a separate event though, but I'll know it's a year. But yeah, no, it was great to take a break, actually, because like I feel like I had the idea to do the podcast and was like, oh, this would be fun, let's do it, and didn't think too much about it. And towards the end of it, I was getting a little burned out, because it was like just that schedule of like every other week, you gotta schedule it all, you know. And it was great to stop for a while, just to kind of like, okay, why am I doing this again, you know? And for me, it's like, it's about making friendships, you know, because like I like I've said a bunch of times, like, this is about, I tend to projectify, make projects out of so many things. And so it's just like, I don't know, making a project out of,
it's cool. It's like connecting strengths, you know?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. So I'm working with my strengths and my limitations.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I mean, I want this to be about, you know, I mean, I could call it like making friends with Frank, you know, but it's like, I think it's the name's still the creative excuse. So yeah, I think I might do that again. Do that if I'm going to keep doing it. Take a break from like December to March, you know. It's a good sort of space.
Yeah.
To do that.
That's cool.
And so then there's the question I ask everybody. Do you know what it is? What is it, if you can name like a particular piece of artwork or an exhibition, or if not, even an instructor, a teacher, somebody or something, if you can think of a piece of artwork that like made you look at art or change the way you thought about art, your trajectory in some way.
Well, yeah. There's this Japanese artist who is named Morocco Machiko. I think, because every time I tried to type it in, I realized that I'm wrong. And she has been like one of my favorite artists since she was shown to me about 6 years ago now from a friend. And she paints with really bright colors, and she paints plants and animals, and they're in a really playful, gestural, like done in a gestural way, and done in a certain way, like you just gave me Merce Cunningham's book on, and you said, and so it's his drawings from his journal and diary, and you said you love how unforgiving he is.
Unapologetic.
Yeah. Unapologetic, yeah. And no mercy.
No mercy.
And she is very like painting in this kind of way that's really loose, and she paints really big, and she paints like polka dots and all these patterns, and it's not like cheesy. Like, I'm also really picky, you know? But it's so sweet, and it makes me think, like, I've always been drawn to Japanese, just like things in Japan. And I feel like they somehow have this culture of sweetness and cuteness that is, that needs to like seep into some people's psyche here, because I had a conversation with somebody who was like, oh yeah, it's so cutesy in Japan, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't get it, you know? And I love it. And I love that they have really sweet drawings on like their labels, on like you get cookies and it has a cat on it. It's just like so me, you know?
And your name is Cat.
Yeah. Have you seen my coin purse?
I have not seen your coin purse.
It's a little cat.
So what did Seed Network do for you? How did that shape you?
Well, I often look at her work because I think a part of me really loves drawing things in a really refined way. And maybe it's a part of me that was a really good student, and I really listened well and wanted to get it right. And I'm gradually learning that I can actually, like, there's integrity in loosening up, and I don't have to draw it like a coyote just like it looks in the picture, but how it feels to me, and I can kind of incorporate both and go between both, because I use photos as reference. But her work is so powerful to me, and it really feels like the animal, or you just get it, like it has such integrity, while it's so like loose.
Yeah.
And it's also bright and so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I think that's all.
Yay!
Thank you
Thanks,
again.
Greg. I'm just now getting in the flow. We'll have to do it
what,
again.
Do you have something else you want to
No.
share? No, okay, good. We're good. All right, thanks, Kat.
Thanks, Frank.